You literally just looked at that. Okay, we laughed. Shayla, check it for me. Okay, I see the camera rolling and stuff, and the time is okay. Didn't have enough juice on it when I unplugged it to go grab my grandbaby real quick, so it did its thing. It normally does. Okay, let me know. Okay, we good. Okay, they can see me. Okay, cool. We are back. And I'm gonna edit the video today, and I'm gonna merge it with a little few minutes because it has the beginning. What I was telling you about the Caesars Messiah. Matter of fact, I'll post it here again. Hold on. Messiah. Okay. Okay. Sorry about the noise in the background. Okay, I just reposted the link for y'all right there. So I think that'll be really good to watch while we're reading through Fossilized Customs, while we're unearthing all of these lies that the majority of the world have been fooled by. Yes, I can see you, Auntie. Sorry, y'all. And y'all probably didn't hear me because I pulled the cord out. I purposely pulled the cord out when I saw my grandbaby go out on the front porch by itself. But when I did, it wasn't enough juice up here because I left it unplugged last night, and it just kind of killed the stream. So, and it started buffering when I plugged it back in. So that's why I decided to start it all over. Instead of trying to get it back up, I just killed it and restarted it. So yes, I can see you, Auntie. Thank you. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with Ezra. And then I want y'all to watch that when y'all get a chance. It's a short one. The link that I just gave you, like I said, that is the full documentary. But there is a 30-minute documentary. Matter of fact, I give you that one too, right? If you don't have time to watch the bigger one right now, but the little small one that they pulled out, it gives you a good bit of everything. This right here. I'm gonna post them both. This way y'all got it. Just in case y'all got to go early, y'all can go ahead and save the link. Hey, Truth, how you doing today?
The book Caesar's Messiah shows that the Gospels were written by a family of Roman Caesars called the Flavians. They created the Gospels as a political tool. They wanted to create a different version of Messianic Judaism. They had fought against a Messianic movement in Judea that was obviously militaristic and violently opposed to Roman rule.
Okay. And if y'all hear that little bit, y'all should be quite interested in what this is going to say. Y'all, it's really, really good. It just exposes more the shenanigans that we've been talking about. Okay, hold on. All right, so that link right there that I just gave you, the second one is for like the 30-minute one, like if you don't have time to watch the full one. So you have both. If you only have a short bit of time, watch the second one. So go ahead and click on the link and save it, however you save it, so you can get right to it. And here's the link over here for Facebook. That's a short one that I just posted. The first one, remember, is the long one, Facebook. The second one I just gave you is the short one. So there you have it. You can watch both of them, but the short one is actually snippets from the bigger one, from the hour and 23-minute one. So when you get a chance. Oh, the full documentary, Truth, is the first one that I posted. It's the first link in this chat. And like I said, I'm going to post both of them and pin it in the comment section when this video is over today. But the longer one, here's the first link where it says Caesar's Messiah, Jesus was a fictional character. See this link. Watch that right there, and it gives you a lot of references. Some of the references I've actually given you guys or alluded to, but I've been trying to figure out a way to, you're welcome, to get all that in for people and try to, sometimes when you give people truth a little bit to kind of help them overcome the, let's say the strong delusion that they've been in, sometimes you have to gently drop it on them while they're waking up, because sometimes you can't give a baby meat, right? You cannot do it. The baby will choke and die. It's the same way when you're trying to wake people up out of a lie, especially a lie that they love, right? So you have to be careful with how you present it to them. You got to give them you got to give them the milk first. And as they digest the milk, they can take the milk. Kind of not necessarily sugar coated, but you have to be careful with the I guess you can say that. Yeah, I guess you can say that, because sometimes children, you need to mix a little bit of medicine with something sweet. So yeah, you can use that analogy. Need it a little bit sugar coated, but as you get older, you shouldn't need to have your medicine sugar coated, right? You should be able to take it straight, So a lot of times until babies develop teeth, you got to give them the softer consistency type stuff, right? When you see teeth, that lets you know, okay, we can try something a little bit more solid, right? You can still drink the milk, feed on the milk, but we'll give you something a little bit more solid, right? And as you have a full mouth of teeth, now you're ready for something. You're ready for some real meat now, because you got all your teeth in place. You can chew it up real good, right? You can meditate on this. You can think about it. You can stop for a second, and you'll be able to pick out the different flavors and the savors and stuff. It's the same way with this, y'all. So I'm not sure if you've been watching us from the time we've been doing this. Shalom, Mom. Shalom, Poppy. You'll begin to catch what I've done through the different videos, especially when we begin to talk about this. I introduce it just a little bit just to see. Some of you have been noticing, been picking it up. Some people, it's like they'll send me a message. I don't know. You got to help me, because this seems like so, but I understand that. So I'll just give it all to you like at one time. But we're at the point now, we're in the 3-year mark, right? And although we have some new people, the ones who've been here for a while should be able to digest it. The new people, okay, I'm patient with them, because maybe they are just tuning in. Maybe they have no prior background, but for some reason they came to the channel and they sticking and they want to hear, So when they got questions, I don't get upset, especially if they don't quite understand. I'll take my time and I'll explain it, and that's why I give all the resources. Don't just listen to me. Go check out some of this stuff. With all that being said, that right there, the Caesars Messiah. For all those that's been here, we've been talking about this, right? But it's really, really good. Go back and check some of those references that they give, all the different documentaries. I told you how Josephus, he was, although some people, when they teach about Josephus, he's like the authority. Josephus was a genius dude, him and his family, right? And all the Gospels, the New Testament Gospels, is their doing. Like they teach you, they don't know who wrote the Gospels. They know, everybody knows, right? Except for the ones deceived by the delusion of that character, right? That they've been deceived into worshiping all of their lives. So check that out. Go back and check some of them resources. Thanks again to Eddie for reminding me of that particular resource. It goes great with what we're reading through now. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and read Ezra chapter 3 and these other 2 chapters in Ezra, and then we're going to hop back and pick up in Fossilized Customs. Okay, Ezra chapter 3. The altar is rebuilt. In early autumn, when the Israelites had settled in their towns, all the people assembled in Jerusalem with a unified purpose. Then Jeshua, son of Jehozadak, joined his fellow priests and Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, with his family in rebuilding the altar of Yahuwah, the God of Israel. They wanted to sacrifice burnt offerings on it as instructed in the law of Moses, the man of Yah. Even though the people were afraid of the local residents, they built the altar at its old site. Then they began to sacrifice burnt offerings on the altar to Yahuwah each morning and evening. They celebrated the Festival of Shelters as prescribed in the law, sacrificing the number of burnt offerings specified for each day of the festival. They also offered the regular burnt offerings and the offerings were required for the new moon celebrations and the annual festivals as prescribed by Yahuwah. The people also gave voluntary offerings to Yahuwah. 15 days before the festival of shelters began, the priests had begun to sacrifice burnt offerings to Yahuwah. This was even before they had started to lay the foundation of Yahuwah's temple. Then the people hired masons and carpenters and bought cedar logs from the people of Tyre and Sidon, paying them with food, wine, and olive oil. The logs were brought down from the Lebanon mountains and floated along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea to Joppa, for King Cyrus had given permission for this. The construction of the temple of Yahuwah began in mid-spring during the second year after they arrived in Jerusalem. The workforce was made up of everyone who had returned from exile, including Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, Jeshua, son of Jehozadak, and the fellow priests and all the Levites. The Levites, who were 20 years old or older, were put in charge of rebuilding Yahuwah's temple. The workers at the temple of Yahuwah were supervised by Jeshua with his sons and relatives, and Kadmiel and his sons, all descendants of Hodaviah. They were helped in this task by the Levites, the family of Henadad. When the builders completed the foundation of Yahuwah's temple, the priests put on their robes and took their places to blow their trumpets. And the Levites, descendants of Asaph, clashed their cymbals to praise Yahuwah, just as King David had prescribed. With praise and thanks, they sang this song to Yahuwah. He is so good. His faithful love for Israel endures forever. And then all the people gave a great shout, praising Yahuwah, because the foundation of Yahuwah's temple had been laid. But many of the older priests, Levites, and other leaders who had seen the first temple, wept aloud when they saw the new temple's foundation. The others, however, were shouting for joy. The joyful shouting and weeping mingled together in a loud noise. The joyful shouting and weeping mingled together in a loud noise that could be heard far in the distance. His question was, what are your thoughts on the burnt offerings? We've done a lot of videos on the burnt offerings and stuff. Is it more moral to offer vegetables? If you're looking at a moral standpoint, I would say yes. Depending on simply because you said it's your first time visiting the channel, it depends on what you're looking at sacrificing as, because clearly sacrifices are food. Although the Bible uses the word sacrifice, I think it's not quite the right word, right? Because the sacrifices, even when they came together and they brought all the animals and stuff, the priests were kind of like the butchers, the ones who were authorized to actually slaughter them appropriately, drain the blood, burn up the fat, chop it up, they get their portion, and everybody else joined in and they ate, right? So when everybody's bringing all these, you see like such and such bought 1,000 bulls and sheep and goats and stuff like that. They were getting together essentially to have like a big family gathering and a cookout and stuff, right? Like I said, priests were considered like the butchers, the cooks, or whatever, and they were the ones responsible for cooking and cleaning the meat because they were the ones that were trained to do it. Yahuwah said, this is how you do it. When you clean it, this is what's done, right? But we're not gonna get too deep into it. We'll start hitting on that as we go down the line when we talk more about the sacrifices. But I would say yes. I would say it's more moral if you want to offer vegetables, simply because if you look at other places in Scripture, where in the Old Testament, sorry for my grandbaby in the background, y'all. I want you to start thinking about something and paying attention to something when you read through the Torah, right? Think about when the famine, before Israel was enslaved in Egypt, right? Before they were enslaved, they were like regular people going in and out. They could do what they please and whatever. Like the Egyptians weren't messing with them until Joseph died, and the Pharaoh who knew about Israel and invited them in, when he died, right? When a new Pharaoh came on the scene, that's when they began to enslave them, right? But think about it. How did Israel get into Egypt in the first place? Remember, there was a famine going on, right? So think about what they did. So when you think about what they did and the different things with their cattle, you would come to the, at least I did. Not saying that everybody was like not eating meat, but you have to think about something. Think about when they were going down there. Isaac sent his sons, not knowing Joseph was already there preparing the way. But when the famine was coming, everybody was going to the main hub of the world, which was Egypt at that time. Why? Because out of all the places where famine was going on, it wasn't happening in Egypt. Because Joseph had the dream, he began to prepare, so everybody knew that Egypt had food. So everybody was going to Egypt to get food, right? Grain and stuff like that. Okay, so when they went the first time, they brought money with them, right? And so when they ran out of all their money, what did they give? What did they give in exchange for food? What did they give in exchange for food? Shayla, we did the Shema. They began trading their herds and flocks for food. I think sometimes people read over it so much they begin glossing over it. Okay, so if you were exchanging your flocks for food, what were you using your flocks for? Like, how was there a famine and y'all had all these flocks and cattle and stuff, right? So that would lead me to believe that they weren't really a big meat eating society, right? They were using their cattle and herd to, maybe they were using some of the things that came from them, like the milk, or if, I don't know if they had chickens, eggs. Y'all get what I'm saying? But in order for them to trade their cattle, what majority of the world, man, you got a cow back there. What you talking about? It's a famine going on. You better go out there and cut, because you got goats, all this food. The way we think about cattle today, because they traded it, it leads me to believe that they were not eating cattle, right? Because they traded it for food. And what happened when they ran out and they sold Egypt all their cattle and everything, all their flocks, and they didn't have anything left? That's how they got into Egypt. They said, we don't have anything left but ourselves. We will sell you ourselves. You can hire us as workmen, and in exchange for food, we'll work for you. And that's how everybody got into Egypt, right? Okay, so I did a few videos, truth. I'll go back and I'll pull those videos up and I share them. It's quite a few of them that I did. Tara, oh, she got in. I'll just make sure the door was unlocked for her. But we hit on that a few times before, truth. And I'll share those, and I'll just, after the video's over today, just kind of keep checking back today, and I'll post the videos for you so you can kind of look at it, kind of save time here today so we can get into the lesson. But we address a lot of those things. And actually, even recent videos, even like last week, we talked about the burnt offering, that it is absolutely not necessary, right? Once you understand, you can kind of go back and if you can kind of uncover some of the lies and get to like the origin of stuff, you'll realize, wait a minute, he never required this, right? And we talked about it. Even King David said, burnt offerings you do not require, right? You simply require truth. You simply require our obedience to your truth, right? The sacrifice of these bulls of our lips, the bulls of our lips is what it said is all you require. You require us to be obedient to your law or to the rules that you set for your house, right? So I'll share that with you. Okay, so let's go ahead and read Ezra chapter 4. What's up, Uncle JB? All right. The enemies of Judah and Benjamin heard that the exiles were rebuilding a temple to Yahuwah, the God of Israel. So they approached Zerubbabel and the other leaders and said, let us build with you, for we worship your God just as you do. We have sacrificed to him ever since King Esarhaddon of Assyria brought us here. But Zerubbabel, Jeshua, and the other leaders of Israel replied, you may have no part in this work. We alone will build the temple for Yahuwah, the God of Israel, just as King Cyrus of Persia commanded us. Then the local residents tried to discourage and frighten the people of Judah to keep them from their work. They bribed agents to work against them and to frustrate their plans. This went on during the entire reign of King Cyrus of Persia and lasted until King Darius of Persia took the throne. Years later, when Xerxes began his reign, the enemies of Judah wrote a letter of accusation against the people of Judah and Jerusalem. Even later, during the reign of King Artaxerxes of Persia, the enemies of Judah, led by Bishlam, Mithridath, and Tabeel, sent a letter to Artaxerxes in the Aramaic language, and it was translated for the king. Rahum, the governor of Shemshai, the court secretary, wrote the letter telling King Artaxerxes about the situation in Jerusalem. They greeted the king for all their colleagues, the judges and local leaders, the people of Tarpel, the Persians, the Babylonians, and the people of Erech and Susa, that is, Elam. They also sent greetings from the rest of the people whom the great and noble Ashurbanipal had deported and relocated in Samaria and throughout the neighboring lands of the province west of the Euphrates River. This is a copy of their letter. To King Artaxerxes, from your loyal subjects in the province west of the Euphrates River. The king should know that the Hebrews that came here to Jerusalem from Babylon are rebuilding this rebellious and evil city. They have already laid the foundation and will soon finish its walls. And the king should know that if this city is rebuilt and its walls are completed, it will be much to your disadvantage, for the Hebrews will then refuse to pay their tribute, customs, and tolls to you. Since we are your loyal subjects and do not want to see the king dishonored in this way, we have sent the king this information. We suggest that a search be made in your ancestors' records where you will discover what a rebellious city this has been in the past. In fact, it was destroyed because of its long and troublesome history of revolt against the kings and countries who controlled it. We declare to the king that if this city is rebuilt and its walls are completed, the province west of the Euphrates River will be lost to you. Then King Artaxerxes sent this reply to Rahum, the governor, Shemshai, the court secretary, and their colleagues living in Samaria and throughout the province west of the Euphrates River. Greetings. The letter you have sent has been translated and read to me. I ordered a search of the records and have found that Jerusalem has indeed been a hotbed of insurrection against many kings. In fact, rebellion and revolt are normal there. Powerful kings have ruled over Jerusalem and the entire province west of the Euphrates River, receiving tribute, customs, and tolls. Therefore, issue orders to have these men stop their work. That city must not be rebuilt except at my express command. Be diligent and don't neglect this matter, for we must not permit the situation to harm the king's interests. When the letter from King Artaxerxes was read to Rahum, Shemshai, and their other colleagues, they hurried to Jerusalem. Then with a show of strength, they forced the Hebrews to stop building. So the work on the temple of Yahuwah in Jerusalem had stopped, and it remained at a standstill until the second year of the reign of King Darius of Persia. Ezra 5. At that time, the prophets Haggai and Zechariah, son of Edo, prophesied to the Hebrews in Judah and Jerusalem. They prophesied in the name of Yahuwah, the God of Israel, who was over them. Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua, son of Jehozadak, responded by starting again to rebuild the temple of Yahuwah in Jerusalem. And the prophets of Yahuwah were with them and helped them. But Tattenai, governor of the province west of the Euphrates River, and Shethar-Bozani and their colleagues soon arrived in Jerusalem and asked, "Who gave you permission to rebuild this temple and restore this structure?" They also asked for the names of all the men working on the temple. But because their God was watching over them, the leaders of the Hebrews were not prevented from building until a report was sent to Darius and he returned his decision. This is a copy of the letter that Tattenai, the governor, Shethar-Bozani, and the other officials of the province west of the Euphrates River sent to King Darius. To King Darius, greetings. The king should know that we went to the construction site of the temple of the God in the province of Judah. It is being rebuilt with specially prepared stones and timber being laid in its walls. The work is going forward with great energy and success. We asked the leaders, "Who gave you permission to rebuild this temple and restore the structure?" And we demanded their names so we could tell you who the leaders were. This was their answer: We are the servants of Yahuwah, the God of heaven and earth, and we are rebuilding the temple that was built here many years ago by a great king of Israel. But because our ancestors angered the God of heaven, he abandoned them to King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, who destroyed this temple and exiled the people to Babylonia. However, King Cyrus of Babylon, during the first year of his reign, issued a decree that the temple of Yahuwah should be rebuilt. King Cyrus returned the gold and silver cups that Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple of Yahuwah in Jerusalem and had placed in the temple of Babylon. These cups were taken from that temple and presented to a man named Sheshbazzar, whom King Cyrus appointed as governor of Judah. The king instructed him to return the cups to their place in Jerusalem and to rebuild the temple of Yahuwah there on its original site. So this Sheshbazzar came and laid the foundations of the temple of Yahuwah in Jerusalem. The people have been working on it ever since, though it is not yet completed. Therefore, if it pleases the king, we request that a search be made in the royal archives of Babylon to discover whether King Cyrus ever issued a decree to rebuild Yahuwah's temple in Jerusalem, and then let the king send us his decision in this matter. And this is what we'll pause right here today. In Ezra, that was Ezra 3, 4, and 5. We'll pick up the rest of that tomorrow. So we're going to go ahead and over here and pick up where we left off at yesterday in Fossilized Customs on page 91. All right, babe. All right. Look, you say. All right, I got you. All right, y'all. I seen the chat box moving up. Joanne, hey, girl, hey. Hold on. Let me see. Y'all was just chatting amongst yourselves. Oh, you're welcome, Truth. He said, thanks for the info. You're welcome. I remember to share those things and some other things that I came across. Okay. Star Child Warrior. Hey, girl, hey. She said, the Indians who are dying in India worship these dark aliens there inside those entities, as I have seen in leaders of our country, sis. Yeah, I've seen some of that same type of behavior in different areas of the world and over here. It does cause you to step back and kind of like pay attention, right? Especially those who have experience with otherworldly entities, right? So we're not taken by surprise, like what in the world is going on, because we're kind of familiar that there is another realm that interacts with the physical realm that we can see, feel, and touch, right? So yeah. Okay. All right. Poppy, that was funny. Your comment. Okay, y'all. All right, so let's go ahead and I don't want to repeat. Your comment was funny, but no offense, it just caught me off guard. Some people are taken by Truth's ministry title for his channel, but Poppy said you're quite polite for a Satanist. He taught you well. That's not to be disrespectful to Truth. Okay, y'all, let's pick up what we left off at yesterday. On page 91, the cry of the Nazarene on the hills of Ephraim. Okay, so yesterday we were talking about the awakening and how some people are waking up and realizing. Are you going to the job site with them?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So they were waking up. Some people kind of seeing that what they've been worshiping in the church is really a farce. So it was going through some of the details of this and realizing what some of this stuff was, right? And it just really picks up again. It's just going into more detail about this. What was one of the main points? I'm looking. One of the main points yesterday. Oh, with the people who are worshiping Asherah and some of the like the Christmas tree and stuff, and when they're worshiping JC, they're still really worshiping like Asherah, like the Ephesians call her the Queen of Heaven. Some call her Diana, Semiramis, all of that stuff, right? Okay. And the last thing that was said about that, the words of Yah, it says, I'll read this again and we'll just kind of pick it up right here, right? Okay. And I'm going back to page 90, y'all. If y'all actually got the book and are following along, it says, can you go upstairs? Okay. 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 Do me a favor. Give him something. Give him like an apple or something. Help him calm down.
Come here, Jackson. Want some eat?
Sorry, I'm trying to keep it quiet over here. Okay. To the messenger of this assembly in Thyatira, right? These are the words of the. I'm sorry, and we cross this out. It says the son of Yahuwah, but we know that's not true, right? So we anywhere where it's adding JC, we're just completely crossing it out because it's 11 that's been added. These are the words of Yahuwah, whose eyes are like blazing fire, whose feet are like burnished bronze. I know your deeds, your love and faith, your service and perseverance, and know that you are now doing more than you did at first. Nevertheless, I have this against you. You tolerate that woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess. By her teaching, she leads my servants into sexual immorality and the eating of food sacrificed to idols. I have given her time to repent of her immorality, but she is unwilling. Remember, so it was saying it was originally the span of time for them to get it right was like 390 years. But since they kept on going, the cycle just kept repeating itself. And so now they've been scattered across the world, just the northern kingdom of Israel for 2,700 plus years, right? Okay, so if y'all remember that from yesterday. If not, just go back and re-listen to yesterday. So I will cast her on a bed of suffering, and I will make those who commit adultery with her suffer intensely unless they repent of her ways. I will strike her children dead. Then all the assemblies will know that I am he who searches hearts and minds, and I will repay each of you according to your deeds, such as bringing an accursed thing into your house. Now I say to the rest of you in Thyatira, to those who do not hold to her teaching and have not learned Satan's so-called deep secrets, I will not impose any other burden on you. Satan's deep secrets, like womb wreaths, like the wreaths you put on your door on Christmas time, phallus trees, and the ornaments of the Asherim, are all Jezebel's teachings. Only hold on to what you have until I come. To him who overcomes and does my will to the end, I will give authority over the nations. He will rule them with an iron scepter. He will dash them to pieces like pottery, just as I have received authority from my Father. I will also give, hold on. We skipped that part, but I didn't cross this out, right? This just as I have received from my Father, right? Okay. I will also, no, I forgot to cross this out yesterday. I skipped over, but I didn't cross it out, and I told her that was 11, right? Is he will rule with an iron scepter. He will dash them to pieces like pottery. He who has an ear to hear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the assemblies. The olive tree is blossoming now. The remnant is awakened. Do me a favor. Take him an apple. Don't call him in here. Take an apple to him, please. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to get him calmed down. All right. True, Jezebel did a lot of stuff. Okay, so the cry of the Nazarene on the hills of Ephraim, Yahuwah will restore us to his Torah, then come rescue us from the captivity in the nations. He scattered us into the nations 2,730 years ago. Psalm 80 says, hear us, O shepherd of Israel, you who lead Joseph like a flock, you who sit enthroned between the cherubim, shine forth before Ephraim, Benjamin, and Manasseh. Awaken your might. Come and save us. Restore us, O Elohim. Make your face shine upon us, that we might be saved. O Yahuwah, Al Shaddai. How long will your anger smolder against the prayers of your people? You have fed them with the bread of tears. You have made them drink tears by the bowlful. You have made us a source of contention to our neighbors, and our enemies mock us. Restore us, Al Shaddai. Make your face shine upon us, that we might be saved. You brought a vine out of Egypt. You drove out the nations and planted it. You cleared the ground for it and took root and filled the land. The mountains were covered with its shade, the mighty cedars with its branches. It sent out its boughs to the sea, its shoots as far as the river. Why have you broken down its walls so that all who pass by pick its grapes? Boars, beasts, men without Torah from the forest ravage it, and the creatures of the field feed on it. Return to us, El Shaddai. Look down from heaven and see. Watch over this vine, the root of your right hand has planted, the son you have raised up for yourself. And right here, y'all, where it says the son, remember, the son is not this one person, JC, but whenever we hear Yahuwah talking about his son, it's talking about the entire nation of his people, right? Not one person. Like to try and teach you over the New Testament, Yahuwah never referred, well, when he refers to his son, he's talking about the entire nation. And if you just keep reading a little bit further in the Torah, when it says my son, matter of fact, perfect example is when he was about to bring them out of Egypt. He said, let my son go that they may worship me, or that he may worship me, right? Egypt just have one. They had the entire nation of Israel there. He said, my son, my firstborn son to be exact, let my son go. Israel is my firstborn son. That's why the plague of the firstborn, remember, that's why they got struck with the death of the plague of the firstborn, because they were killing Yahuwah's firstborn, which was all the people, the men, women, children, old and young, right? They were killing all of them, not just oppressing them with the harsh type slavery, but they were doing all manner of stuff and killing them. And he said, this entire nation of people is my firstborn son. And because you keep killing them, I'm going to bring the plague of death of the firstborn. And that's why Egypt began to lose all their firstborns, right? Okay. Why have you broken down its walls so that all who pass by pick its grapes? Boars, in parentheses beside boars, it has beasts, men without Torah from the forest ravage it, and the creatures of the field feed on it. Return to us, El Shaddai. Look down from heaven and see. Watch over this vine. The root of your right hand has planted the son, or Israel, the son you have raised up for yourself. Your vine is cut down. It is burnt with fire. At your rebuke, your people perish. Let your hand rest on the man. Hold on. Yep. See, this right here. Right here. It says, let your hand rest on the man at your right hand, the son of the man you have raised up for yourself, which is not JC, y'all. He's talking about the entire nation, right? So just make a note. You can cross it out, or you make yourself a note that that's all of Israel, not the one person. Because when people read it, they get clicked back into the mindset, JC. That's not it. Then we will not turn from you. Revive us, and we will call on your name. Yahuwah's name, not anybody else's. Restore us, Yahuwah Al Shaddai. Make your face shine upon us, that we may be saved. To our brother Yehuda, we say, I am Joseph. Like Joseph, we also can tell our brothers, but Elohim sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, to save your lives by a great deliverance, which we just talked about, right? How did Israel get into Egypt in the first place? Remember, they sold their brother Joseph into slavery in Egypt. Actually, he sold him to some Ishmaelites. Ishmaelites then turned around and sold him to the Egyptians. He was raised up in Egypt, and he's like the second in command right under Pharaoh, right? He prepared the way. So when the famine was coming in the future, when Israel began to come, there was already somebody there at base camp to make sure they got in. Although they didn't see the bigger plan that was like, they didn't see it from like the bird's eye view. They didn't see everything that was transpiring, right? Okay. But Elohim, Yahuwah, sent me ahead of you to preserve you for a remnant on the earth and save your lives by a great deliverance. And you can find that in Genesis chapter 45 and verse 7. Okay, so this next little sentence is using one of these. We're gonna Jackson.
Trust me, you gonna shut up with that?
Okay. Your dad already left. What you talking about?
I think he upstairs.
No, my truck is gone. Yeah, he took my truck. Okay, so this next part right here it's talking about Yahusha's yoke, right? But he's going on to explain what this is. Like, we're not to take the yoke of Yahusha or JC on us. And I get what they're explaining, his words, a set of teachings, but we just can't even read this. I'm gonna just X out this whole top paragraph, right? Because they're trying to get you to look at what he said when we've already clarified that everything he said goes against what Torah says. So I just wanted to show you what I crossed out. This is the picture at the top with the balance scales in this whole paragraph. We just crossed out, right? So if you got the book, I'm not even going to read that. Just so you know, I'm not just sticking on it, right? Okay. So if you go down under it, under the next picture, we'll read and where you at truth, you might like this since you're talking about Jezebel having sex with horses, right? Yeah, that's true. What he's saying, just in case some of y'all are kind of taken back by it, what truth is saying is actually true, right? We kind of, when we went through Ezekiel last time, we kind of brought it out a little bit, but I didn't get into too much detail about it. But what he is saying right there is actually true. But you might want to listen to this next part because it's about to get into the seminary and how some of these sexual rituals begin to take place in the church, right? So listen up, truth. Many of you have seen the humor in referring to seminaries as cemeteries. The word seminary, seed plot, which means seed plot, seminary, seed plot, relates to the metamorphical use of the term seed in Scripture. There are good seeds and bad seeds. What are the seeds that Yahuwah has sown? What are the seeds sown by an enemy? Can they be discerned? The instructions, Torah, commandments of Yahuwah are the good seeds which Yahuwah has planted. Added, changed, or omitted instructions are bad seed. Mankind, hold on. Oh, I thought this was the one part where it was talking about how, I'm going to keep on reading, but I thought this was the portion where it was talking about the play on words and how they're using like the seminary. It's like when you look at the Catholic Church, the seminary, it's like truth hidden in plain sight is referring to the semen, and they call it the rectory, right? I thought this was the part. We haven't gotten to it yet, but it goes into detail about that. And it went over it just a little bit here in some of the earlier pages, but the word that they use in the Catholic Church and rectory, it's really a gross thing, and how it talks about what happens in the seminary, which is a play off of the word semen, and the rectory, which is a play off of the word rectum, the semen entering into the rectum, right? It's really disgusting, y'all. But I thought this was the part we had come to. So truth, still listen up. But I'll put that the pages, if you have the book, I'll put the page number earlier, but I got to go back and pull it up where it is, and I'll post it in here. If you got the book, you can jump right to it, or the online version of it, you can find it. Okay. Mankind is the diverse kinds of soil they are planted in. We must discern which kind of seed we live by and who planted it. At the harvest, the weeds will be taken first by the reapers, so we must be careful how we listen. Those who accepted the seed and allow it to grow in them become less soil and more fruit of that which is planted. As time passes, more and more fruit is seen, just as we see soil becoming the vegetation that grows in it. Okay, we'll read this part because Yahusha once went to a fig tree to look for its fruit, but it had none, so he caused it to wither. Matthew 21:19. So even if one has good seed, if they don't produce the fruit that is expected of them, he will reject it. Bad seed is sown by the enemy of Yahuwah. Bad seed sown by an enemy of Yahuwah are unintended instructions that choke out the good teachings, or with Torah in a parentheses, because Torah means instruction, teaching, or law, right? Bad seed sown by an enemy of Yahuwah are unintended instructions that choke out the good teachings, Torah, which Yahuwah originally intended. We recognize which kind of seed was sown by observing the fruit that has developed in a person. If you compare today's religious culture and its traditions with Yahuwah's instruction for us in his word, it is apparent that there is a huge difference in the two. We are not taught by traditional religious leaders to walk in the Torah or wheat of Yahuwah, but rather we are taught to walk in the inherited traditions or the tares passed down from Gentile, Greco-Roman pagan customs, which became mixed into the good seed. If you think otherwise, just ask a Christian minister what he thinks about observing the true, authentic Sabbath as a day of rest and ignoring Sunday entirely. Then you will begin to see the fruit of the bad seed and how it seeks to choke out the good seed that is trying to grow in the same field. Who planted the seed helps reveal which is good and which is bad, even before we see the fruit. We either obey the words of Yahuwah or we obey the words of men. It's always our choice. If we eat from the forbidden fruit, we will bear bad fruit and pass on bad seeds or bad instructions to others. The parables reveal hidden secrets in the Yahuwah, and the following excerpt you see to illustrate how to discern what we should listen to and live by. Okay, so this is going to go, it's going to use this. He's going to explain this by using the parable in the New Testament, right? The seed. All right, son. Love you. Y'all be safe out there. By using the parable of the sower, right? So let's eat the meat and spit out the bones of what he's saying, of the example, what he's trying to convey. I will read this. Okay. The parable of the sower. That same day, and it says Yahusha went out of the house. No, hold on. Okay, yeah. That same day, Yahusha went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along a path, and the birds came up and ate it. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still, other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop, 160 or 30 times what was sown. He who has ears, let him hear. The disciples came to him and asked, why do you speak to the people in parables? He replied, the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and he will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what he has, will be taken from him. This is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will be ever hearing, but never understanding. You will be ever seeing, but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become callous. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn, and I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For I tell you the truth, many prophets and righteous men long to see what you did see, but did not see it, and hear what you hear, but did not hear. Okay. So let's bring a correction here. Although I read it for the sake of the example he was given, let's correct it. Okay, so what he said right here, when he said this prophecy is the fulfilling of what it says in Isaiah, we know that that was taken from the book of Isaiah and kind of planted over here in the New Testament, right, to kind of make it apply. But this is not where it was fulfilled. It actually tells you where this was fulfilled when the Hebrews were finally scattered out of their land, right? Yahuwah kept sending the prophets and they wouldn't listen. They kept doing the multiple, guys, get in here. They kept doing these pagan practices, even in the places where they should have only been worshiping Yahuwah alone, right? And so that's what he was telling to Isaiah. He said, these people have ears, but they cannot hear. They have eyes, but they cannot see. I said, guys, get in here. Guys, I'm sorry. They keep. Yep. But Jackson is outside, but Isaiah is with him. But bring both of them in. Oh, okay. Hold on. Get in here. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, so but we'll see that that's fulfilled back there. And when they constructed the New Testament, they just began to pull pieces and mix it with the story. So the reason why you find some truths in the New Testament is because they pulled those truths from the Old Testament and they mingled it with some made up stories and some lies to kind of make a mesh together. But you will never catch it if you never read it and you never read the origins from where everything came from, right? So right here, this extra stuff like the last sentence, where I tell you the truth, although that's a true statement, it really wasn't said back here because the story was comprised. We talked about it earlier about Josephus and his family, but they just took that portion of the Old Testament, added here, and added some extra stuff to make it look like it was being said in this current generation, but it had not been, right? Okay. What time be that? Okay. Guys, we almost done soon. I'm going to have to cut it short because they might just get louder and louder. All right. The seed is the word, the Torah of Yahuwah. Listen to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message, or and they have in parentheses, Basora or gospel, about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The one who received the seed that fell on rocky places is the man who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. And we can look at this. I'm reading this because this is a true statement here, because as we learn the truth about the deception that we've been in, there are a lot of different things that come in and try and snatch that truth away from you, get you confused, get your attention diverted from what you should be paying attention to and what you should be completely ignoring, right? Okay, so this is the same thing. So this is why I'm choosing to read this part today. Listen then to what the parable of the sower, listen to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message or the sower or gospel about the kingdom of Yahuwah and how he has set life on this earth to be, right? The entire earth realm, and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The one who received the seed that fell on rocky places is the man who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since he has no root, he lasts only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, he quickly falls away. The one who received the seed that fell among the thorns is the man who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke it, making it unfruitful. But the one who receives the seed that fell on good soil is the man who hears the word and understands it. He produces a crop yielding 160 or 30 times what was sown. This is the meaning of the parable. The seed is the word or Torah of Yahuwah. Those along the path are the ones who hear, and then the devil comes and takes away the word from their hearts so that they may not believe and be saved. Those on the rock are the ones who receive the word with joy when they hear it, but they have no root. They believe for a while, but in the time of testing, they fall away. The seed that fell among thorns stands for those who hear, but as they go on in their way, they are choked by life's worries, riches, and pleasures, and they do not mature, meaning their attention has been diverted and they're off looking at things that doesn't profit them, right? But the seed on good soil stands for those with a noble and a good heart who hear and obey the word, retain it, and by persevering produce a crop. And that is found in Luke 8:11 through 15, right? And in parentheses, he has Yahusha defined the seed to be a word, Yahuwah's Torah. Fruit means offspring. Okay. It's going into another parable. Matter of fact, it's going to all the parables, which is pretty much saying the same thing, right? Hold on. Wait. Okay. We'll read this. Yahusha told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. The owner's servants came to him and said, Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from? An enemy did this, he replied. The servants asked him, Do you want us to go and pull them up? No, he answered, because while you are pulling up the weeds, you may root up the wheat with them. Let them both grow together until the harvest. At that time, I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned, then gather the wheat and bring them into my barn. This is to say, hold on. Okay, I just had to make sure the way he was using this word rapture was right. Okay, this is to say that the first to be raptured away will be the lawless, the weeds. His new barn is New Jerusalem. Okay, so we know that rapture, there is not a rapture. There will not be a rapture, right? The way they explain this, the rapture is a newly created thing, right? But anytime something is taken away, they explain this the wrong way. They think those, and in the Left Behind movies that they see, those who are taken, they when they tell that story, they tell it like when it says 2 will be working in the field, 1 will be taken and 1 will be left. The way the church teaches that, the one that's taken, they teach, is the one who's been raptured away. That's a lie. Whenever Scripture talks about, at least in the Old Testament, when it talks about those being taken, that means you die, like you leave this earth. Not leave this earth to a rapture and go into heaven. That's never what Yahuwah said would ever happen, right? It means you die. You leave this earth. The one who's taken is the one who dies, and the one that's left is the one that gets to live on a little longer, right? Okay. As long as we got that understood. Okay, the parable of the mustard seed. What is the reign of Yahuwah like? What shall I compare it to? It is like a mustard seed which a man took and planted in his garden. It grew and became a tree, and the birds of the air perched in its branches. Luke 13:18-19. The small mustard seed indicates that the teachings begin in what appears to be a very weak, humble condition, but one day they will grow to fill the whole earth and dominate all other seeds. The Torah will do that, or it's referring to the truth. As more truth begins to come out, truth will begin to dominate the earth, right? People will put all these lies and stuff away that we have been living in and believing for millennia, right? And that's why I'll keep, because everybody's heard about these Left Behind movies and stuff, right? Like the way that they portray it happening, like the burning of the churches and the Bibles and stuff, the way that they're explaining, the way they're trying to make people perceive it is like they're gonna start like burning, and oh my gosh, everybody that believes in God they're gonna try to do away with them, right? But I see it in a different light. As we begin to awaken to the truth and realize that they have been lying to all of us. And even people of different religions was like, wait a minute, we've inherited lies from our fathers too. Like we all have been deceived, right? We all have been living in lies, and people are going to get pissed with it, and they're going to rise up against all these religious factions, and they're going to all this added leaven and stuff, New Testament, everything, burning. I'm not telling y'all to go burn church buildings, but y'all get what I'm saying, using an example. But according to the Left Behind movies, this is what you're seeing. But if you look at it with the proper understanding, you will see that's the destruction of all the lies, right? The come out of her, my people, come out of the church buildings, all these lies and pagan worship and sexual rituals, all these things. Stop doing this stuff, right? It's been hidden under the guise of religious reforms and stuff like that to make you look pious, and you put on like coverings, make you look like a nun, but you're really a shrine prostitute for the priest that, y'all get it, right? So when I look at it now, I see it appropriately, right? So anytime you hear people talk about burning Bibles and, oh my gosh, they're doing away with this, they still don't have the proper understanding of what's truly happening across the earth, right? All the lies are being uncovered. People are coming to the truth, and truth will pervade the land. We're putting away all of this garbage, right? And we're going to walk in truth. Okay, let me read that again. The small mustard seed indicates that the teachings began in what appears to be a very weak, humble condition, but one day they will grow to fill the whole earth and dominate all the other seeds. The Torah, which is truth, will do that. The parable of the yeast. He told them still another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like the yeast that a woman took and mixed into a large amount of flour until it worked all through the dough. The Torah will do that. It says, Yahusha spoke all these things to the crowds in parables. He did not say anything to them without using a parable. So was fulfilled what was spoken through the prophet. I will open my mouth in parables and will utter things hidden since the creation of the world. We know that it wasn't JC that did that. It was the actual prophets who began speaking to the people, right? Because if your ears weren't in tune with the truth, you wouldn't even be able to pick it up, right? You wouldn't even be able to see the truth that was hidden in the story, right? It's like okay, it's like you see the movies, some of the slavery movies, right? Where you see the slaves singing a song. It's almost like that same principle, right? They would sing songs, and the slave master would think, oh, they're just doing Negro spirituals. You go ahead and keep picking my cotton, right? But what they were doing when they were singing these songs, those who understood and they were in tune with the frequency of the other slaves, they knew that they just weren't songs. And certain songs they sung, everybody knew what was about to go down, right? So that's how they got the message across, by singing a song in the form of what they term a Negro spiritual, but it was to get the word across to the other slaves. This is what we're about to do. This is what's about to go down. Here's who about to take off and run a night away from massa, right? So it's the same thing. It's the you can liken Negro spirituals during the slavery times the same way they liken parables to people, right? Because people who just hear the parables and don't understand the truth, what's going on, they just hear the story, right? But those who are telling the story, trying to get their message to their people, all those who are listening, they sang a song and their ears are tuned to that song to see the message that's hidden, that's coming directly to you, right? And those who aren't in tune, they just sing along and sing a good song. They are none the wiser, right? Okay. The parable of the weeds explained. Then he left the crowd and went into the house. His disciples came to him and said, explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field. He answered, the one who sowed the good seed. It says the Son of Man, but this is a lot. The whole story is a fabrication. But for the sake of the teaching in it, walk with me while we pick the meat from the bones, right? So it shouldn't be the Son of Man, right? The one who sows good seed will say is Yahuwah, right? The one who sowed the good seed is Yahuwah. The field is the world, and the good seed stand for the sons of the kingdom, right? Of those who worship Yahuwah alone, right? Okay. Yes, baby.
I want to go to the store.
You want to go to the store? What you want to get from the store? Chase, going back in the living room. He want to go to the store now. He want a toy off the shelf. I'm sorry, y'all. The weeds are the son of the evil one. Oh, let me go back up. Hold on. Let me just go back up. Okay. Then he left the crowd and went into the house. His disciples came to him and said, explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field. He answered, the one who sowed the good seed is Yahuwah. The field is the world, and the good seed stands for the sons of the kingdom, or those who obey the truth. The weeds are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are the angels. As the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of age. Yahuwah, it says the Son of Man, he'll cross that out, right? Yahuwah will send out his angels, and they will weed out of his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil. They throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear the parables of the hidden treasure and the pearl. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all that he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything and bought it. All right, y'all, let me pause right here. No, matter of fact, let me just read this last parable, and then we'll pause right there because it's going to go into seminary again. Okay. Once again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was let down into the lake and caught all kinds of fish. When it was full, the fishermen pulled it up on the shore. Then they sat down and collected the good fish in baskets, but threw the bad away. This is how it would be at the end of the age. The angels will come and separate the wicked from the righteous and throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Have you understood all these things? Yahusha asked. Yes, they replied. He said to them, therefore, every teacher of the law or Torah of Yahuwah who has been instructed about the kingdom of heaven, which is the Torah of Yahuwah, is like the owner of a house who brings out his storeroom new treasures as well as old. Right? And so we'll pause right here, y'all. For the sake of time today, because we're already over our hour mark, we're already an hour and 5 minutes. And sorry for all the interruptions today. But we'll pick it back up tomorrow with seminary, the word and development of it, right? Okay. So with that being said, we started on page 91 and we paused on page 96. We read Ezra 3, 4, and 5, y'all. It is Monday. And I'll go back and double check some of the comments in a minute. And I'll address a couple. It is May the 24th, 2021, day 162 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 831. And that is without the Sabbath days or the feast day Sabbath days added into the count, because we're commanded to rest on those days. You got 6 days to work, 1 day to rest, sleep in, guys, right? So we do that as much as possible so we don't burn our bodies out, right? That's good. Not just a command of Yah, but it's good common sense. If you work days without rest, you tend to burn your body out, right? So that's good for all, not just for a certain sect of people, but all those commands are for all people, humankind, right? All right. So let's go here. We'll do the blessing, and I'll go back and I'll look at the chat, which has been quite lively today, might I say. The blessing can be found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the Nazarite vows, the first 21 verses of Numbers chapter 6. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, on this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, may Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, y'all. Okay. Oh, let me just skim through. Uncle Nathaniel, greetings. I saw your article. I read it. My thoughts about it is true, right? As I was reading it, when it was saying that the population for all the other nations was dying out and decreasing, I'm glad they got to the part. I was like, yeah, that's not true. I said, that's not true of the melanated populations, but it actually got to that. It said, and it's probably about midway through the article where it said they saw a decrease in births every year for, it's been a while now. And if it keeps going that way, some of the other nations and ethnic groups are going to kind of like die out. But what's going to be caused like the melanated population really kind of overtake the population, right? You know, so, but yeah, that was good. Those are my thoughts on that. I think that's true from my study so far as of today, right? But yeah, okay. So over here, YouTube today. All right. Yes, I agree with that comment. Truthy said the Catholic Church is a corrupt organization. We've been saying that since day one. Okay. I like this comment. Truth said, what I understand from what you were saying is that Christians are sun worshipers and Jews are Saturn worshipers. That's absolutely correct, Truth. I mean, okay. Yeah. I mean, it's still the same thing, because Poppy responded to him, Jews are not Saturn worshipers. That's misrepresentation. I got what he was saying. So, like, without playing on words, they're all falling under the same thing. Don't matter what they're calling it in a different sex or whatever. It still all tracks back to like the Nimrod worship, right? Because remember when Nimrod died, they said he died and he became stationed in heaven, and he became the son, right? But before he died, him and his mama wife, he married his mama, who then became his wife. Disgusting. And when he died, she told everybody that she was pregnant with Nimrod's baby, right? So you got the whole father and son deal, father, son, Holy Spirit type deal. That's where all of this originates. And it's all the same thing in all the religions. They just change the names and they explain it a little bit different. But if you track it back, all roads lead back to Nimrod. And it's all sun worship, Saturn worship, the planetary worship. It's all the same thing. So what he said, he just kind of gave an overall kind of, it's true what he said. But if you want to get technical about terms, some things can be adjusted, but it's still all the same thing. It all tracks back to the same thing, y'all. So okay, y'all talking between yourselves. So okay. So y'all was talking between amongst yourselves, but it's interesting. I'm just reading y'all comments. I'll let y'all go between one another because look, it's gonna blow some people's mind with the sacrifices for real when we get to that part. When I really bring it out, like, but when I do that, y'all, like I said, I need to have all my. I've been telling y'all for a while. Is this whole sacrifice thing? I gotta finish putting it together. I ain't gonna really get into it, but everybody's having these questions and stuff. But when I say there has been leaven added, not just to the New Testament, but also the Old Testament, there's a lot in regards to the sacrifices where leaven has been introduced. Like I told y'all, I have a Bible. What I'm doing, I'm testing it from what I'm studying. Just give you a little bit. I have a Bible that I got where I'm specifically going through, marking out every place. I'm pinpointing all the sacrifices, right? And I'm going through, like, crossing all of them out, like all of them, if that makes sense. Because I'm going through trying to, because there's missing pieces, there was added pieces, and I'm just testing different things to help the story make a little more sense, right? And that's what a good researcher does until we find the truth. But yeah, but there has been a lot of leaven added to the Old Testament in regards to the sacrifices. If we look at what Yahuwah is saying, because if we look at what Yahuwah is saying and what he commands, right? He said he doesn't want sacrifices. The whole New Testament, we can look at the whole New Testament. I ain't gonna say the whole, because there's some truth back there. I'm not gonna call everything an abomination, because they have taken truth from true places, but the thing is it's full of leaven, right? So, but all that stuff that has been added back here, it also has been added in the Old Testament, so it can make it seem like the Old Testament and the New Testament connect and intertwine, when they absolutely do not, y'all. It's like two different worlds. But if you're not familiar with what Yahuwah says, you don't really understand. And that's why some people's like, well, the Bible contradicts itself. You got some people fighting that say, no, the Bible is the infallible word of God from beginning to end, from Genesis to Revelation. I used to believe that. I really did, until I actually started reading it for myself. Not just once or cherry picking scriptures. I'm like, I'm gonna read this totally unbiased and I'm gonna go through it myself, right? But you cannot deny. And I started getting frustrated myself. I was like, well, darn it. There are contradictions in here, right? But at that point, I decided, okay, let me figure out why there's contradictions. Is it me interpreting it wrong, or are there truly contradictions here where things have been added or things have been, you can say taken away, but there wasn't a Bible in the first place, right? The Bible came into play, like the book came into play during the Constantine era, when they took different letters and stuff from the different prophets and people and they wrote the stories, or scribes, they took it and they condensed it, and they chose what they wanted to put together and kind of pass down to push their whole theory and their whole what it was they were trying to do. It was really about governmental reign, right? And they figured introducing religion will help us to subdue the people. We can calm them down, we can pacify them with peace. Let's give everybody what they want. Let's combine the gods so you can worship your God here and you can worship your God here too. Like all this stuff, that's what they've done. And if people are not wise and they don't understand it and they can't see through all of this stuff, someone believe that's infallible from beginning to end. I no longer agree with that. Like I haven't believed that, and I want to say 4 solid years now, right? So just like it's been leaven added to the New Testament, there definitely has been leaven added to the Old Testament. But like I said, as I'm doing this study on specifically the sacrifices, and it's not just this, but I have other manuscripts from other nations that actually talks about some of this stuff. Because remember, Yahuwah also says, he said, don't worship me like the other nations worship their God. And they were always into doing blood sacrifices and stuff. And Yahuwah said, I don't need all that, right? But they got Yahuwah looking like he desires blood for everything. And when he said, stop, and it got to a point where he said, stop killing the animals completely. I'm going to just completely destroy the temple because y'all not getting it. Y'all still mixing the pagan worship and blood sacrificing. You're not just killing animals now, but now you're killing human beings. You're sacrificing your sons and daughters. He said, I do not require any of it, right? And we're going to go all the way back, all the way even to the very first, supposedly almost blood sacrifice that almost happened with Abraham and all this, because people start just like Truth started bringing up some of the stuff he started bringing up. But I'm gonna let you know, I have been working on this for a little while, bringing all this together, because when I do it, I want to have all the research that it's available where I can pull out and share the references and tell it so we can see the progression and how we got to where we are today, where everybody thinks they absolutely need a blood sacrifice, right? Even though they found a way to keep the blood sacrifice going with the destruction of the temple and taking all the flock from everybody. Oh, you spend the blood sacrifice, so let's give you a spiritual blood sacrifice, right? And from the very beginning, it's abominable. First of all, Yahuwah says, do not kill people, right? First of all, sacrifices are food, right? Humans are not edible. We do not eat humans. That's cannibalism. Yet we hear JC talking about some drink my blood and eat my flesh. This represents whose covenant? That doesn't represent Yahuwah's covenant, because his people are not cannibals. Yet you're telling people to act like they're drinking your blood and eating your flesh. We don't do that. Yes, okay. Yes, baby girl. But that's what we're going through, and it's taking me a while. So y'all be patient with me. I know people come in from time to time asking these questions, but I'm gonna let you know that's something I'm still working on. I know a lot of that stuff to be true, but I don't want to get to a point where I'm still just doing my due diligence and bringing all that stuff together. Kimberly, it's Murphy Tribe. And I'll send it to you. I'll post it in here so you can get to it. But hey, girl, hey, thanks for joining. All right, so with that being said, y'all, I know Truth for Satan Ministries has made the chat box pretty lively today, but no offense, guys. It don't matter who come in. Don't be taken by their YouTube names. I mean, everybody, we're all adults here, right? We should be able to chat amongst one another and chat about truth, right? We don't know everything. Some people know more than what we do. Sometimes we know more than what other people do. Sometimes we have pieces of the puzzle where we can help one another out and we can bring it together, So that's what I look at it when we get different people. I'm sorry, y'all. No matter what other people think, I choose to treat all people respectfully. And I hope everybody would do the same when you come into the chat box. You may not like people's screen name, what it looked like, and just, be cordial with everybody, right? We'll be cordial with everybody as long as those who are coming visiting, you're being cordial. I don't expect anybody to disrespect anybody, talk about them in any kind of way, because I wouldn't do that, right? And so if I see that happening in the thread, I'll have one of my moderators stop it immediately. So, but we appreciate you showing up today, Truth. You said some good things. We talked about a lot of this stuff. Like I said earlier, I said I was going to share a couple things. So just be watching in the comment section today. I'll get it all posted by the end of the day. Hopefully within the next couple hours. Y'all hear my background is already getting loud. The kids are all up. But we got to go ahead and end this today. So I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out. I will see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Kathy, hey, shalom, sis. All right, y'all, we got to go. It's loud. Sorry for all the interruptions today. But anyway, I'll see y'all back here in the morning. Peace. Have a great day, Truth. Everybody, thanks for hanging out with me today.
Mom.
Yes, baby girl.
Let's make this lemonade.
Wait.